What is different about transferring business or the commercial properties we talked about? Well, it's different in the sense that you want to figure out who owns this property. A lot of times when it comes to business and commercial properties, sometimes individuals will either have it in their name, they are actually the owners of the commercial property, or sometimes they'll have it in their LLC, or maybe it's some sort of corporation for purposes of liability and for purposes of protection. Because sometimes people will do that instead of putting it in a trust. There's nothing wrong with that, but typically there's a difference in that we have to make sure we know who owns it, whether it's more than one owner. That all factors into how we transfer it, which is very different than residential, because residential, there's one or two owners, maybe it's three owners. Sometimes I've seen even four owners, but the people are the owners, the individuals. Sometimes business or commercial properties, you're dealing with corporations. These are entities as opposed to an individual. While that's a great way to protect your property, there also is a reason why putting an estate plan together and assigning it appropriately to potentially a trust is a great method to protect that commercial property outside of just being an LLC. Because I think what we commonly know, and for those of you that have commercial properties or are investors, you know very well that having an LLC or some sort of corporate entity protects you. However, considering weaving this into your estate plan is a very, very important and effective way to protect your family. So transferring that in the appropriate method and even having that in your estate plan will benefit your family in the long run. So there is a bit of a difference when it comes to transferring those properties compared to residential properties because they're very different. Now, that is really all the questions that I have that usually come up as frequently asked questions. Now, I noticed that sometimes too, one of the questions I get, and I just want to make sure people are aware of this, is that people will say, should I get an estate plan if I don't have property? Because we've talked a lot about property today. Should you consider it? I always say everyone should have a basic estate plan in order because you never know when you would need it or your family will need it. There's a lot of documents that you can put together outside of a trust. For example, a will, powers of attorney, living wills. These are all relevant documents that can also be used when it comes to just doing an estate plan. So don't be alarmed if you think, oh, I don't need it because of XYZ, or perhaps I only need to have this type of estate plan because everyone is different.